I'm Sharon Hester. I have the privilege of introducing our guest speaker today. Many of you all know Reverend Terry and have heard her speak and know what a wonderful speaker she is, but there may be a few things you don't know about her. I asked Terry if there was anything in particular she wanted me to say about her during her introduction today, and she sent me this introduction, and it's so perfect I'm going to read it just the way she sent it. Today's speaker comes to us indirectly from the cash register at the Pell City Walmart. Formerly pastor of the Unity Church of Christianity in Pensacola, she retired early from that profession to care for her husband in his final years. She recently retired from the United States Department of Labor, where she did her part to keep our nation's coal miners safe, one citation at a time. Regardless of where you stand on fossil fuel energy, Terry is certain you are committed to worker safety. She and her mother have shared a home for 15 years, first in property they own together, and now in a senior living apartment complex in Pell City. She shares caregiving responsibilities for her mother, who is now a hospice patient, with her 3 sisters and their aging canine companion, Tinkerbell. An introvert whose sun and moon are both in Scorpio, an ordained Unity minister since 1994, a member of Unity of Birmingham and former prayer chaplain, a graduate of Twilight Brigade training, author of the Kindle ebook Releasing the Love of Your Life and of the blog pricelesspresent.org, Etsy shop proprietor, and working diligently on run-on sentences. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker with her topic, Happiness Cannot Be Traveled To, the Reverend Terry Price Ware.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you all. I did ask Sharon to edit that. And you can tell what kind of a place I was at the moment that I wrote that. An introduction? I mean, you know me, okay? Well, most of you do. Some of you may not. That's okay. You'll get to know me. Or not. We'll see. Happiness cannot be traveled to. This message changed many times over the course of preparation. When I was first invited to speak, our mother was in a much healthier place. And as time went on and I prepared the talk and edited it and threw it out 6 or 7 times, Spirit finally said, put your ego away. Now, in my heart and mind, Spirit uses expletives. I don't know about yours. But Spirit has to get my attention the best way it can, and sometimes there are expletives involved. Now, I'm sure that I put those in there, but my ego was tripping me up here and there, and I was really, I tell you, let me just be truthful with you. I was going to recycle a talk that I gave here about 3 years ago. I thought, okay, that'll be easy. They will have forgotten all the stories, I'll just do that. Dadgum if I could find it on the computer anywhere. I save everything to an external hard drive. When your computer crashes, lose everything. So I've learned that lesson. Couldn't find it anywhere. So I thought, okay, no ego here. That's not what we're going to use. So then I started preparing the talk, and I was going to start with the song from Farrell. You know the one. Yeah, that's one. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof, but that's not how I was feeling, so here's where I'm starting. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I had a couple of bars of the other song planned, but that's not where I am today, and you deserve authenticity. I deserve authenticity. You're happy that I left the expletive out. Please understand me, I am happy. And today's happiness is not the jump around, flash mob, singing in the street, turning cartwheels kind of happy. And I'll reveal a little more about that in a few minutes. Now, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Most of us now, as Unity students, we have mostly given up the concept of the anthropomorphic God sitting on a throne in the sky, watching the sparrows and watching us. We accept God is outside of us and God is inside of us, and there is no us because there is only one energy, drops in the ocean, breaths in the wind, lots of metaphors, but no definition. Because to define God, Spirit, all that is to limit God, Spirit, all that is. And we know there is no limit. Sometimes I sing the song that we have sung here in Unity. It's in the old Wings of Song hymnal. Remember that one? Sometimes we sing that. I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. And not free to sing on key. But anyway, right now, and for most of us, I dare say each of us, because most of us sitting on our behinds in chairs, still in bodies, we don't feel completely free. I don't know about you, but I haven't mastered flying yet without an airplane. It's still in my body. And still I am unlimited. I know, because this body is not the real me. This is not all I am. This is just temporary. We are eternal outside of time. And that is what the book that we've been studying this month from Robert Brummett, Birthing a Greater Reality, is all about. Calling us deeper, calling us higher. Dennis Waitley, he's a motivational speaker and a writer. He's been quoted as saying, happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living each moment with love, grace, and gratitude. Now, here's something interesting about every moment from Robert Brummett. To the mind, there is no now, because time appears as a river that is ceaselessly flowing. The mind is unable to grasp or to capture the river of time, whereas the mind cannot enter the now moment. The body cannot escape it. It knows nothing else. I had to read that over several different times, and I'm still not sure I really have it, but I'm going to keep reading it. Because for me, this is beginning to reveal an insight I'd only glimpsed before, that there is a reason beyond selfishness, greed, and laziness that I get so attached, so grasping for travel, owning, earning, wearing, and consuming. And that reason is that I'm allowing my body, my ego, to run the show. Has that ever happened to you? Well, I have ticket stubs, credit cards, a wardrobe, and a waistline to prove that I have certainly been living that way. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living each moment with love, grace, and gratitude. How many of you have experienced change this year? You don't have to raise your hands. I know, we all have. Our bodies change. Our muscle tone changes. I was having trouble getting my socks on the other day, and I thought, what happened? And I'm not ready for one of those things, that you have to, the little thing to pull your socks on. So I realized I had to do something about those muscles, and, you'll be happy to know that I have been putting on my own clothes again, so I took care of that. But, our bodies do change over time, and some of those changes we like, some of them we don't like. At first, I didn't like that my hair was going gray, and so I kept it colored, a nice, beautiful auburn color. It was beautiful. Everybody thought I was a natural redhead. I had my eyebrows dyed and everything. And then I developed an allergy to hair color. So now my hair is what? Plaid? I don't know what it is. Some of the changes we like, some of them we don't like. But one thing is constant. There's no constant. Our bodies are going to change. Our experiences change. We experience loss and accomplishment. We experience disappointment and achievement, abandonment and attraction, prosperity, poverty, upset and peace. And some of these changes we like, some of them we don't like. But there is change in our experiences. A factory foreman was a hardworking and conscientious man who had not been promoted in over 10 years. One of his co-workers walked up to him one day and asked him if he said, you're such a good worker. What is the reason that you haven't been promoted in so long? Do you know what's going on? And he said, oh, yeah, I know. He said, about 10 years ago, I had an argument with my boss. I won. Our experiences change, and some of these changes we like. Some of them we don't like. But one thing is constant. There is no constant. Our experiences change, and change is often uncomfortable. 8-year-old Judy was going to summer camp for the first time, and her parents were somewhat concerned that she might be homesick. Now, she was going to the same camp that her 13-year-old brother Jim had been going to for years. And so when they got home from camp, her parents asked her, Judy, were you homesick at all? And she said, well, yeah, occasionally I did get a little homesick, but what I would do is I would walk over to Jim's tent and I would just stand outside the tent for a while. And pretty soon he'd come out of the tent and he'd say, get out of here. And I'd be okay again. So one thing is constant. There is no constant. Our experiences change, and change can be uncomfortable. And that's what Robert Brummett is trying to tell us, that when we get uncomfortable, instead of anesthetizing ourselves with consuming, earning, wearing, traveling, we need to feel it. Feel the discomfort, because what it's doing is it's burning up that part of us that is ready to go. And it's pulling us higher to a new place beyond our bodies, to a new place of awareness, a new evolution of our souls. Our souls are changing and evolving, and isn't that what we're here for? To remember who we are as offspring of the Almighty, unlimited by time and space, unlimited by our bodies. We are everything, and there is no we, there is only the one. We notice ourselves responding differently to similar experiences. What once scared or angered me, now I just take in stride. I know it's not about me, or if it is about me, I say, oh, okay, thank you, that is about me. So I need to work on that. And what I once hardly noticed at all pushes my buttons. And so it's good to know where those buttons are, so we can flatten those buttons, and they aren't buttons anymore. And 15 years ago, as Sharon told you, my mother and I decided to share a home. We shared in the caregiving for my husband, Don, after his aneurysm and stroke. He was retired from the Air Force. If you want to find out where your buttons are, just move in with your mama. Now, 15 years ago, I had already done a considerable amount of inner work in therapy in seminary. Now, you might think seminary is just going to a whole bunch of classes and learning all about the Bible and learning about church and studying metaphysics, so you know the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. If only. There was so much deep inner work, and Robert Brummett was a huge, huge part of that. If you get a chance to watch any of the YouTube videos that are out there with Robert Brummett, please do that. He's the author of the book we've been studying. So powerful, and he was so instrumental in assisting me to moving to a better place. A place where I could have compassion for my mother. So when we moved in together, I can't say I completely resolved everything, but I was in such a place where I could have compassion for a 15-year-old bride, a 17-year-old mother, an unskilled woman who was terrified of being abandoned by her abusive husband. Today, I feel very blessed to not only to have my mother with me, but to have reached a place where loving and accepting her in all the ways we're different supports me in loving and accepting myself. Reverend Charles and Robert Brummett call it the shadow. I call it the mirror. Anything that I see in you, positive or negative, especially if I have any kind of energy on it, I see it because it is also in me. You are showing me where my growing edges are, and I don't know whether to say thank you very much or thank you very much. As many of you now know, my mother is a hospice patient, and our roles have reversed. When I first started putting these thoughts together a few days ago, she was still pretty sharp and witty and loving, although somewhat dulled by the pain and by the pain meds. Today, she's ready to make her transition. She calls it going home. I expect we'll be releasing her in the next few weeks, if not the next few days, and I wouldn't be surprised to get home and find out that she has gone home. Many of you also know that after taking the Twilight Brigade training, I wrote a short Kindle ebook about releasing our son and his father, and I thought I knew grief. Talking about letting ego run your life. Peeling away layers of that onion. But this is my process, this is my path. This is my soul's process of healing, and healing shows up looking like change. Sometimes the only way my soul can get my attention is by creating something in my body I'll pay attention to, like having trouble getting my socks on. Sometimes the only way my soul can get my attention is by creating something in my relationships I'll pay attention to. You can bet I've been doing some heavy-duty work with my mother over the past weeks. She's still hanging on for some reason. There's no reason that we can think of. She's ready to go. She wants to go. She says. The other day I was helping, oh my God, it was just yesterday. Last evening I was giving her nighttime meds. She could hardly swallow. And she says quietly, I want to go. I said, what? I could hardly hear her. What, Mama? You want to go where? I want to go to heaven. My mother's a traditional Christian, and her idea of heaven is different from my idea of heaven, and that's okay. And so I told her again, as I've been telling her all week, it's okay. We're sad, and some of us would just kind of like to go with you. But I've been talking with my son, and I've been talking with his father, and I've been talking with my grandmother, my granddaddy, both grandmothers, Mama and Papa, and asking them to help her come over to the other side of the veil. She's hurting. And so they will. They are. We know that life is eternal and love is immortal and death is only a horizon. And a horizon is nothing save the limit of our sight. My soul is evolving from the belief that I am separate from you and separate from God to the truth that we are so closely connected, so part of each other that the atoms that are right now creating the molecules of adrenaline in your bloodstream, if you're still awake out there, those same molecules are now creating the teardrops in my eyes. We're so closely connected, so apart, so part of that essence of the one presence and one power that it can't help but remind us to live each moment with love, grace, and gratitude. Einstein taught us that the physical body, like all material objects, is an illusion, that the unseen world is the real world. I have a little trouble wrapping my mind around that because my mind is in the way. You know, I remember Reverend Jerry talking with us about the mind intelligence can get in our way of getting to the heart. And for me, it does often. When we're willing to explore the unseen levels of our bodies and our experiences, we can tap into this immense potential, this creative power that lies at our source. And I believe that this is part of what Reverend Mark Pope, remember Mark Pope? I believe that's what he was trying to teach us. And many of us, including me, I'm embarrassed to say, were simply not ready to hear it. And I may not yet be ready, but I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready. The world we accept as real seems to have definite qualities, yet none of these qualities means anything aside from our perception. It's all about our perception. Take a chair, any chair. To me, it isn't very large, but to an ant, it's immense. It feels hard, but a neutrino could pass through it so quickly because a neutrino is so minute that the atoms of the chair are miles apart. It's all about perception. Let's have a look at this graphic here. Maybe some of you have seen this. Even when you look at it one way, you see him looking one way. And if you allow both sides of your brain to work, you'll see him looking a different way. Let's just leave that up there a while. And if you want to see it more, it's on Facebook. I'll email it to you. Whatever. Healing our thoughts, our emotions, our senses, and tuning into our intuition, that's a process. And we cannot judge our thoughts as wrong because they are our thoughts. We created them so that we could learn from them. Becoming conscious is the core of our healing process, of our soul's evolution. We can't judge our experiences as wrong. They are our experiences. We created them from our thoughts so that we could become conscious of our thoughts. What gives our thoughts their power? What is the mystery of Jesus' eloquence? Probably not his choice of words or his delightful parables or the grace of the speech or the charm of his voice, of his oratory. We could compare that, not that we have recordings or anything, but we could compare that to many of the great speakers of today. But what I believe it was something else entirely. From the Gospel according to John, the 1st chapter. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The mystery of the power of Jesus' eloquence was all these and something divinely more. The fact that he was what he said. That authenticity I mentioned earlier. In him, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And each of us is the only begotten. Each of us, Jesus told us, has exactly the same power and presence that he had. He was able to tap into it. And we have that ability too. If we remember that happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living each moment with love, grace, and gratitude. Let me close this morning with this thought from Michael Xavier. I'm beginning to suspect that the second half of my life is about learning to let go of everything I feverishly collected over the first half that wasn't loving or human. Clap your hands. If you know what happiness is for you, don't clap your hands though. Because right now we're going to pray. Precious Spirit, we're so grateful for the opportunity to come together and share our thoughts. Even if those thoughts seem a little bit disjointed, it's because I'm a little bit just disjointed. I'm making an effort to believe what my intelligence tells me is true, but my heart, a part of me keeps rejecting and keeps going on to Amazon and buying something else. Help thou my unbelief. We acknowledge that you have blessed each one of us with the opportunity to learn and grow and become and remember who we are. And we thank you for that knowing, and we thank you for our master teacher who showed us the way. And we pray this in his name after his living example. Amen.